Hello,
I'm
hello,
here. Hold on for
everybody.
one. Hold on. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to this first debut of Bold but Not Cold with Leese and April, and then it will be April and Leese. So we're going to be talking about certain topics, but from a seasoned point of view, and that is where
Hello,
the
everybody. Y'all
title.
got to give me a
Oh,
minute.
that's where the title has come in. Old but not cold. We may be older, but we're not cold. We have a lot of wisdom to share. So, before we begin, we're going to start with a little bit of a little oldie but goodie. Some of you may remember this, others of you may not. So, without further delay, if I can get this up real good, give me 1 second. I had it, and we'll begin. All right, that was one of my favorites from long time ago, back in 1960. That was Frankie Lyman. Yeah, Miss April. Not sure if you heard of him or not. I'm sure you have, but um, very talented young man. But unfortunately, he met with a unfortunate demise. But I love my oldies,
Yeah,
and I wanted to start the show off with that. So, how are you today? This is
I'm
Friday.
doing fine. Little bitty pretty one. Come in, lively one. Why do fools fall in love? Did he had how many wives? Bunch of them, didn't
Yes,
he? Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So, tonight I wanted to hold on for a second. Let's see. Okay, good. Everything is good here. So, I wanted to talk about.
Evening, and we old, but we not cold. So let's get this started. What we gonna talk about tonight?
Well, I am glad that you asked this question. There was a trending topic on TikTok, and I'm going to show you. Well, actually, if you look into the chat at the pin, there's a link, but
Uh-huh.
I'm going to go
Okay.
ahead and play it again, and I want you to give your honest opinion. I want you to pay attention to its entirety. It's 45 seconds, but it says a lot. And we can get straight into it.
Okay.
Are you ready, Miss April?
Okay. I'm
Hold on.
ready. Let's
I'm gonna
do
be
this.
laughing.
Let's do
I'm
the
gonna be
damn thing.
laughing.
Oh, but not cold. I love that.
I'm gonna be laughing the entire night. I can tell
Right,
already.
because I'm like a part-time comedian, y'all, and I like to be happy. So don't y'all pay me no attention. Now I do want to make this disclaimer before we go any further. The views and opinion that I express on this show, those are not of Leese's, but they are mine. If you have a problem with anything that I say, address me and do not take it out on
That is too funny. Okay, so this stems from a woman who went viral on TikTok because she was bragging about the amount of money she spent via government assistance until it was stripped from her. Now, a lot of people have a misnomer that it is only people of color on the system. Well, Miss April, you and I know, and many others know that that isn't true. So let's look at this little clip. And again, your thoughts after
okay.
this clip is over with.
Okay.
Shopping at Sam's and Costco, flaunting massive grocery hauls paid for with food stamps. However, the Trump administration is ramping up audits and eligibility checks and putting an end to these types of situations. The woman is now complaining that her EBT benefits have been terminated, forcing her to prepare quote-unquote meager meals for her large family, like small portions of eggs, waffles, and sausage on 9 plates, a big difference from her previous extravagant shopping sprees. Last month, the woman, who refers to herself as Girl Quake, went viral with a cooking video where she prepared a large breakfast, including buttermilk waffles, French toast, sticks, blueberry waffles, and Roger Wood sausages, all purchased with her EBT card.
Now, Miss April, this woman is 29 years old. She has 9 children. And are you holding on to your seat? She's expecting triplets. Your thoughts, number one, and two, government assistance, and if President Donald Trump,
Hello?
I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. But the video stopped.
Okay, let me play it again. A little bit of context. This is a 29-year-old woman who has 9 children. She's expecting triplets. She has been viral on TikTok for her extravagant purchases at Costco, leading up to $3,000 in EBT benefits. But as of late, those benefits have been stripped from her. So let's look at this clip again. And if you look at the top of this video in the pin, there's another video that you can click on.
Shopping at Sam's and Costco, flaunting massive grocery hauls paid for with food stamps. However, the Trump administration is ramping up audits and eligibility checks and putting an end to these types of situations. The woman is now complaining that her EBT benefits have been terminated, forcing her to prepare quote-unquote meager meals for her large family, like small portions of eggs, waffles, and sausage on 9 plates, a big difference from her previous extravagant shopping sprees. Last month, the woman, who refers to herself as Girl Quake, went viral with a cooking video where she prepared a large breakfast, including buttermilk waffles, French toast, sticks, blueberry waffles, and Roger Wood sausages, all purchased with her EBT card.
Your thoughts on that, Miss April?
Well, like we said, it's not only, one race of people. That's for sure. No, not at all.
No, there isn't. And if you look at the pin, if you look into the chat, there's actually a pin there. There was a Caucasian woman who actually, she was blaming the taxpayers. And she basically said, if you all do not work, then I cannot receive my $3,000 in food stamps, my $2,000 in cash payments, or her 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house that she only has to pay $38 a month in rent. So, are you in agreement with President Trump, number one, putting a ban on certain foods that contain a lot of sugar and just aren't healthy, and proposing that people are off of these programs in the next couple of years? Your thoughts,
No.
Miss Pro Showers? Oh, okay. We might have a little bit of a disagreement, but the floor is yours, Miss April.
Okay. I do not feel like the federal government should be telling me what I can eat or drink, you know. And if people want to buy candy or expensive, okay, even though it's not a great choice, but the three legal addictions are caffeine, nicotine, and alcohol. Um, so no, I don't think the government should be telling people what they should eat. You know what they can buy, and to me, everything's tainted. You know, all foods are tainted now. So that's my opinion.
So, again, you'd have to go to her page. Her name is Lady Quake on TikTok, but she was purchasing a lot of sugar, as you just mentioned, that a lot of things are tainted, but because she already has 9 children and she's expecting three, that's 12 kids and she's not even 30 yet. Do you think that it's okay? This might be redundant, but to be purchasing fruity pebbles and real sugary cereals where there's more healthier options. And that is one of the things that he wants to eradicate, not so much as the food, but the ones that are high in sugar content, because it, that could cause health issues down the line. And I would think if you get $3,000 a month on EBT, that you could probably select more healthier choices. I didn't see, and she could have, but I didn't see any water or anything like that. But everything else just full of sugar, full of sugar. I didn't see any vegetables, just a lot of snacks. And I did see chicken and ground beef, but again, you'd have to look at that. But your continued thought on that.
Okay. Again, I grew up on crunch berries. Uh, Tony Tiger, you're great with a lot of sugar. Uh, I made it. And, to me, we cannot tell people uh, what we can recommend, but we can't tell people how to raise their kids. And then maybe that was just the trip to the store to buy all the snacks. Eating healthy is expensive, Lisa.
Oh, absolutely. I know. Trust me, my
Yeah.
refrigerator, and I've shown my hauls. It's very humble. I'm very frugal. I have to be very careful because I am a type 2 diabetic. So when I saw
Yeah.
that video, I'm like, oh my God, but my diabetes, they're considered steroid induced diabetes. So from taking prednisone for my lupus for years and years and years and years, brought it on, and I did not find that out until last year. So I have to go through with the finger
Telling
pricks every day and then the insulin. So when I see things like that, I'm passionate about it because that is something that I do not wish on my worst And I mean, not only is it an inconvenience, but it can be painful. And if your numbers are up, your anxiety may go up. There are a lot of factors, but I guess the bottom line is yes, I understand where you're saying that people shouldn't be told what they should do or be controlled. But could this conceptually be a good thing in order to curb possible health conditions in the future, especially for the young children? Because if you look at this woman, her name is Lady Quake. She has to be, and I'm not embellishing, probably tipping 300 or more pounds. That cannot be healthy.
And now, that to me, like they can recommend what people should eat. And obesity in children has been on the rise for years, for years. And again, like I say, they can recommend things, but to actually, tell folks we're not going to feed you, um, you got to buy this and you got to buy that. I don't think that's fair. That's just my opinion. You know,
So the
I don't
time,
think it's fair.
okay, and a lot of people feel that way. And again, everyone is entitled to their opinion. So I'm glad you give your unbiased opinion. I appreciate you for that. So that being
I want
said,
to say something else too.
sure,
Um,
sure.
you know, um, a lot of people, um, they need to be educated too. But then again, we didn't listen to our parents. Um, but like I say, we grew up in a time where we had vegetables and we had fruits and vegetables and the meat. The problem I have now is that you're trying to target sugary items um, and caffeine, where to me, no food is safe. I don't know who's growing the food. I don't know what type of fertilizer you're using. When they have organic stickers on stuff, I don't know. We don't know. And
And you're
so,
absolutely right. You are absolutely right on that. They can slap a sticker or a label on anything. We are at the mercy of what we're being told. So you're right about that. I agree.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So that's my story and my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. It's too much control. But like I said, um, wow, isn't it funny? The myth has been that black women are welfare queens, and that's so far from the truth. Um, yeah. So that's not
Yes,
true,
so
people.
it's not true. And again, there is a short that is in the chat that's at the pin. Are you able to see that,
No, because
Miss
I'm
Oki?
on my phone. I'm not on my laptop. I'm on my phone.
Okay, you're on
Yeah.
the phone. Okay, but there is a Caucasian woman on there. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and play the audio. Let me
Okay,
know
play
if
it.
you let me know if you can hear it. Give me a second. And this may change the minds of some people who believe certain things. And then again, Miss April, it may not, but just take a listen to this.
Okay, I can hear, but not see.
Went from 4,400 in food stamps every month to $38.
Okay, that was the Caucasian woman who just stated that she went from $4,400 a month on food stamps to $3,800 a month. So she was very upset. So your thoughts? I'm here, Miss April. Your thoughts on the Caucasian woman being very upset of losing over $4,000 a month down to $38 a month. And the same woman said that the reason, again, you have to go to TikTok to see this, the reason why she has so many children is because with more children, the more benefits she's able to acquire. And this is from a Caucasian woman. Okay, we're going to wait for Miss April, but that was just a short clip.
Can you hear me now? Because all of this stuff is, it's
Yes,
like we're on some type of delay.
yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's very unfortunate that this is what she's doing. But again, like I say, we could not tell people how to spend their money.
But the problem is a lot of people that have pushed back, they're saying it's the taxpayers' money that are that's funding these extravagant grocery hauls. I mean, if you look at some of these, and someone did uh, they did some content on this the other day, how she was spending 4,000, I think, at Costco and of her spending, I think, that has a lot of people upset. It's the fact that she appeared to be bragging about it, and this is free, and that has ruffled the feathers of taxpayers. So, your thoughts on that? And again, ladies and gentlemen, there's a misnomer that there's just one demographic that benefits or has benefited from this social system called welfare. But if you do your research, that absolutely is untrue.
Yeah. And that's what I think is horrible. I think it's very horrible. But, you know, this lady might be a taxpayer as well. But again, like I say, I do not want to tell people what they can eat with my money. No, even though I'm a taxpayer.
Oh, okay. Okay. There are some people, like I said, that they don't have a problem with it, but you have a large group of people that are. And hey there, Art. Art says she's in the business of babies for food. So that that comment right there, Miss April, your thoughts on that? Because I actually know someone personally who is, in fact, what Art just said. It is in the business for babies for food, but not only food, shelter as well. She was a former client. She's not even 30 yet. She had 6 children when I first met her. She has two more, so that's eight. Several different fathers, and she not only has a Yukon, a home, but I think she's maybe worked maybe a couple of months. Again, this is not judging anyone, but your thoughts on that. Do you think, I guess the bottom line is, do you think that some people are using and milking the system to get everything out of it instead of using it to catapult themselves in a better position where they can take care of themselves. In other words, not being dependent on a system where people who actually are in need can't get certain resources because it, they're depleted because of unfortunate situations where people, as Art says, are they're benefiting because of all of these children and not working. And keep in mind, there was also back in the day um, checks, and I'm not sure if people are familiar with that, to see if there were actually men in the home for the people who were the recipients of certain assistance from the government. That was loaded, but I know you know where I'm coming from.
Use it, no matter what, you know. And, you know, at the same time, we tell people, to keep their kids, we be for life. But so therefore, we got to help them take care of them kids, you know. So, did you hear me?
Yes, I was responding to Art. He mentioned a movie, and I can't believe he remembered it. But Claudine, do you remember that movie, Claudine?
Yeah, I think I had went out. Did you hear what I just said?
You mentioned that you feel as though that people should take care of these children.
Well, if we believe in pro-life, then who are we? You know, if we're for pro-life, if we're for life, right? You know, we tell women that they should keep their kids. Then I feel as though we should help them try to, help them with their kids. Um, and like I say, I believe a lot of this stuff that they are showing, it be messed up in a way, but then again, I like the fact that you know she was not a woman of color, since these are the people that they got us thinking are the only ones that's on, you know, getting public assistance. So yeah, and like I said, those people they don't know. Everybody needs to be educated. It looks like, right? Right. It looks like everybody needs to be educated. You know.
Now, do you believe in the concept when you speak on education, teaching people how to perhaps make healthy choices, make healthy foods, perhaps grow, if it's possible, healthy foods, whereas you don't have to be so dependent. And the other caveat I wanted to get into you with is, and that's something that Lady Quake said, that she was not going to, and I want to be careful with the words that I use, she was not going to end the existence, I'll just say it that way, of any of her children. But this right here, and it might be sensitive and touchy for some, and there will be people that are not going to be in agreement. But how do you feel about having over 5 or 6 children with 5 or 6 different fathers? Is that something you feel as though it's nobody's business, or do you think that's a problem and leads to some of the stereotypes that many people of color often are faced with?
Well, for me, I think it's awful because You know, obviously, you think that a baby can keep a man, you know, and that doesn't. And, you know, having a bunch of different baby daddies, I do not agree with, you know. Um, and I feel as though it's awful and it's a shame because you got to deal with all of these different daddies now, and some of them might take care of the kids, all of your kids, and some of them don't. Uh, but having a bunch of kids by a bunch of different men, no, no, I don't think that's cool at all.
Now, can you expound on that a little bit more? Because that 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 I think is one of the highlights that a lot of people have problems with, because there are actually women out here that have had quite a few children, and they've been able to complete school and raise their children and have been successful. However, that's not the case for many. And again, the perception, the stereotypes of having all of these children by several different men. Again, are these men using these women? Or are they laying up? Are they out getting jobs to help support them? Are they coming around just to reap the benefits? And how do the children feel seeing so many different people? Because, say, Daddy A and Daddy B, they may be good men, but let's say Daddy C and D may be violent or addicted to something. Don't you think that's a lot of different? And this is for people that are in the spiritual realm, a lot of different spirits that could be coming in and out of not only the mother's um, realm, but the children as well.
Okay, I think it's awful. Again, like I say, some women think in their mind having a baby by a man will keep them. Y'all looking for love in wrong places. A child would not fix nothing. And like she said, all of those personalities and most of these men, you really don't get to know them until you've been with them for a while. And then it's not good for the kids to see their mom with a whole bunch of different men, all of these different baby daddies, some daddies doing for their kids and not doing for all of the kids. And I do want to say that to me, if a woman gets with a man and he knew that she had all of these kids, okay, and then once they break up, then he only want to take care of his child, I think you a sorry sack of shit because you knew that when everything was fine and dandy, you took care of all of them. And then the minute y'all break up, then it's only your child. No, no, it don't work like that. Real men still keep doing what they were doing. Yeah.
Excellent point. Excellent point. And Art just said the kids develop emotional complexes sometimes. Absolutely. We have to think about the psyche of sometimes these women and definitely a lot of these children, because what you just said, Miss April, was very poignant. How do you go from loving the entire family and then you break up and the other kids are loved and the others feel shunned. They may feel like they're not good enough or they may have done something wrong when in fact they've done nothing. So, how do you combat that? Or can you?
No, there's nothing you could do about it. Cause you can't make a man do something that he want to do, that he doesn't want to do. You can't make him, you know, love your child that really isn't his, you know. And art is so true, it'd be a lot of resentment. Children are innocent, you know, and it's unfortunate that children are used as pawns. So, women, to you younger women, we old but not cold. Find you a man that, if you got kids, that's gonna love your kids. Look at his family history. Look how he treats other people. Look how the family accepts another woman's child. You got to look at all of these things, you know, before you decide this is what you're going to do. Because at the end of the day, even though the child pays for the mistakes of the adults, women, we have to just be wiser in choosing men.
Now I'm getting ready to travel down perhaps a virtual rabbit hole. We're going to come back to that statement. But when you mention, Miss April, and thank you so much for your insight, you say that women have to be more careful and when they're choosing men. So let's do a little, not a deep dive, but maybe just put our toe in the water a little bit and bring it around. Cultures that actually have arranged marriages. How do you feel about that in contrast to these women that have multiple children by multiple fathers and then the family dynamic? Your thought on that?
Okay, well, the arranged marriages, I mean, everybody pretty much knows. He's a decent man. This is what he does. These are his intentions. He comes from this type of family. So, I can't be mad about that. They know something if it's already arranged. They know the family. They know what the family stands for. They know what the family is about.
Yes, but there are a lot of times from stories that I've read and speaking to some people that a lot of these arrangements, even though it's good financially and for the empire and for their legacy, sometimes, sorry about that. I'm not sure who that was out there. It's Friday night. But sometimes these arrangements, they're missing love.
Yeah, well, you can grow to love somebody, but I mean, I, but that's their culture. And so, um, you do need to have some type of love, some type of feelings, you know, something. You got to have some type of love or some type of respect for each other. And even though the love might not be there, hopefully the respect would be there, you know, hopefully.
And it is. I've seen that, but that's something that I had thought about. I'm thinking about other cultures, and as I said, the arranged marriages, and again, the the legacy. However, we also know that there's a demographic. Again, not just brown people, but our Caucasian sisters as well. They don't look at that. They again they
A lot of this is taught
cultivate.
behavior too, Lucy. Women
Yes.
have been taught to go after a certain type of man too, you know, and it's mostly the one with money, you know. Love don't matter, only money.
So when a woman does that, again, this is coming from a seasoned perspective, is that a form of self hate or not respecting yourself enough to wait until you find that one that's truly in your heart, or are you just looking at you being secure financially and staying somewhere where you know in your heart of hearts you're not happy, but you're looking at your future and assuming, because sometimes we know, Miss April, some things may go left and catch you out of nowhere, and
Yeah.
that security blanket that you're dragging around like Linus might be snatched from you, and then you're looking, holding the bag. Your thoughts on that?
Well, you knew what you signed up for. You knew he didn't love you, and you know that you married a person for money and security. Hey, ain't nothing I can say. You got to deal with it when it happens because you lowered yourself. You know, women have to take accountability for the bad choices that we make too, and we do make bad choices, decisions. Some of it is taught. You know, instead of love, you want security, and you can wait and have them both. But some people got their parents. Time waits for nobody. You better get them now. Blah blah blah. You know.
And you said another very important thing. You just mentioned about taught. So, are you saying that younger women, or women, even women growing up in our generation, taught? Is it taught by what they've seen their parents and grandparents do, or by outside stimuli?
Well, you figure right now in today's world, you got the reality shows that's awful. They're showing women get beat up. And then, of course, in some cultures, it's always been the older man, young woman type of thing. And so, it's a little bit of both, you know. But I would say more of taught behavior and what you saw your aunties do, your mother do, you know. I think it's taught. I got to mute my mic for a minute.
Okay, that's a very good observation, and I agree. And I believe that a lot of these problems, and again, some people may not agree with this, and again, dissent is good. A lot of these issues are born from some of these reality shows. I remember coming up, there was a show, I forgot the outlet, it was on MTV or something to that effect, but it was called The Flavor of Love, or that was one of them, but there were several of them where women would meet, um, and vie for a man's love, and they were at a location maybe a month, if that long, and it was just crazy. So Miss April is right on point with that particular ideology that she described, things that are taught, but as you get older and you get wiser, if you're blessed to get our age or older, and you sit back and you look at time that was wasted and how long you've lived a life that's a lie. Was all of that worth it? And perhaps it has been worth it to some people, but for others, it may not have. And let me get Art's comment really quickly. Hold on for a moment, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for those that have come in. And please make sure you double check. And Art says Flavor Flav was a character. Yes, he was, but the concept, it actually ballooned into so many different reality shows that, in my opinion, it again, it fed into stereotypes, um, fast romance, and even though some couples may have met and quote unquote fell in love a year or so later, they were in the tabloids with horrible things happening. So you have to be careful with that. And I think Miss April has returned.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, like I
So
say, that's us. Yeah, a lot of
now,
it, like I say, can be taught on what we saw. You know,
now you mentioned, and I spoke briefly while you were gone about these reality shows. Do you think that's made relationships or how women view relationships better or worse?
I think it's made relationships worse. You know, because here we got women that think, "Oh my God, this is how it's supposed to be." No, you know, we had enough of these fairy tale books when I was growing up. No, no.
That's unfortunately the, I don't even want to use the word culture, but I'll say pop culture that many people have actually prescribed to. And as you mentioned earlier when we spoke about the EBT, there are certain things, no matter how much you can put the mirror in their faces, it's not going to change. And think about, okay, let's talk about this particular word, and this word has been around for years and years and years. Groupies, women who intentionally seek, as you mentioned earlier, riches, but they're looking at the athletes or the celebrity. Are those taught behaviors?
Yep, it's taught behavior because there we go again. We're looking for that celebrity. You know, we're looking for somebody to take care of us. We don't love them. You know, some women are taught. You know, hey, go for that money. You know, you can put up with everything they do. You know, long as he taking care of you. You know, and that's not good. You know, that's not good at all.
And you're absolutely right. But again, this dates back to our generations. Look at some of the celebrities that come up, the young women that came up and get their parents, they saw dollar signs as well. In other words, they lived vicariously through their seeds and didn't pretty much think so much about their seeds because they know that their garden would be watered by their seeds' talent. So knowing this, it is, can that cycle be broken, or is it just going to get worse because everybody, well, not everybody, but so many young people, they want a taste of celebrity. They want a taste of being in the limelight so bad. And we hear so many stories about people selling their souls. So I want your deep, raw, uncut perspective on that. Selling your soul for that fame, for that notoriety.
Yeah. And again, I'm going to say a lot of that behavior, that is taught behavior. Um, you know, people have been programmed to think that. Women have been programmed by any means necessary as long as you got that bag, none of the other stuff matters. None of it. You know, get long as he taking care of you, you know, don't be worried about nothing else. Don't and so for me, I think that's a crack of shit. But like I say, women have been taught that this is what you got to do. You got to go for these type of men. You know, I mean, train them. I mean, this is taught behavior when you think about it. It's taught because ain't no girl gonna know. Oh, I just got to get with this man just because he has money. You know, that is taught and that is learned behavior. I don't care what anybody says. That's my opinion.
Okay, your perspective on this.
Yeah.
You remember the sitcom, and I think, oh, I don't know if it was taped in your area, but do you remember Good Times?
Yeah.
So if we think back to Good Times, and I absolutely loved that sitcom, they didn't want to stay in the quote unquote ghetto, but I think all of the children were doing, they were doing good things and the effort to get out of the ghetto and out of the
Yeah.
situation. Now,
Yeah.
let's look at the contrast. What about those that did not have talents or aspirations to use what they had innately
Yeah.
to get out? How do you explain that as far as looking for that that come up, if you will?
Well, when I look at something like that, I think JJ and them they had their own talents. He could still paint. Um, then you had Michael. You know, he was a poet. He wanted to be something. And then you had Thelma, who did end up with a football player. And then look at what happened to her. You know, look at what happened. He ended up getting injured. You know, yeah. But they were raised in a house that was full of love and love your people. Don't get with a man you know due to their money. I mean, she thought she had hit the lottery. We all did, you know, but that showed life. Yeah, and like I say, a lot of these people, um, women, they will get with the man for the financial part, but they keep forgetting the emotional part that comes with being a wife. And if that respect isn't there, I don't know what to tell people. You know, a man has to respect you first, and they see, and you know, they see the game being played. They know, but some of them still don't listen. You know, okay. Take for instance all of those Kardashian girls. You can't tell me they wasn't raised to be with rich, rich black men. You know, that's all they ended up with. You know,
That's true, but
so
I'm going to go at this angle. Is that wrong in wanting the best for your children, even though it may not be morally correct in the eyes of public opinion? Is it wrong to want the best for your children?
it's not wrong, but most of the time, it's not even about the children. It's about the lifestyle that the woman wants. They haven't even thought about kids yet, you know. But okay, so let me rephrase that. So no, it's not wrong for a woman to want the best if she chooses to marry somebody due to like finances. And of course, nobody wants to be with a poor man. I mean, let's just face it, you know. So is it wrong? Um, I can say it's not wrong then, but I can say it is. Um, because when it's about the money, nothing else matters. That's how I feel when it's about the money. You know, they're not looking at the problems that are going to come up. You being disrespected. They might have other women. You might be put in a position you got to do some things that you don't want to do. And we do it in the name of love. You know, love is something else. Love will make you do right. Love will make you do wrong. And women, this is what I want to tell you. You
To Al Green.
Yeah, girl, I done went back to Al Green. Um, a man can only do what you allow them to do. You know, they're only gonna do. But again, I don't blame any woman because, like I say, we all women have in their minds that we can change a man. You know, um, and you've seen it. There have been some good success stories where they got with a woman and, you know, they made them think, they made them look at life different. But for the majority of the times, if that man know that you got with him or you got pregnant by him on purpose, so he had to marry you, that respect is not going to be there. Yeah. But again, when we love hard. And so I've been a fool for a man before, you know. I thought I could change him. I thought they would see the best in me. But, they got with somebody else and they changed, you know. So people change and do things for um, the person that they love, or either they can go through life experiences and say, you know what? I'm tired of this path I've been taking. I really want a successful relationship, you know. And so, yeah. But I'm trying to think. Um, I'm pondering on that question. I guess really there's nothing wrong for wanting to be with somebody that's rich, um, and you don't want to be. You want to be with somebody that can provide the best for you. But you also have to think at what cost, you know, what cost, you know.
Absolutely. Again, and you're absolutely right. Does it cost you your love of self? Does it cost you your integrity? Does it cost you your self-respect? You just said something really important where you said that you believe that people can change and you love hard and you've been a fool. I was a fool for my first boyfriend, but let me tell you something, Miss April, I dodged a bullet because even though he was likable by a lot of people, that boy was a swindler, and my mother called it. But as you said, sometimes when you are in love or you think that you're in love, especially when you're young, nobody can tell you anything. And I'm sitting here arguing and fussing at my mother, telling her she's old. You don't know what you're talking about. You just don't want me to be happy. And she said, no,
Yeah.
I'm trying to warn you so you won't be hurt in the future. Miss April, do you know? I sat there and fell for some of the most outrageous lies. And do you know
You went out.
he
Yeah.
what 40 some years later, 40 some years later, he has not changed and had the nerve. I don't know how he tracked me down to DM me and ask me to give him a call. And I'm saying to
Oh,
myself, for what?
yeah. For what? Yeah. For what? And
He has
another
changed.
thing from us old but not cold, when people are telling you something, baby, we're not telling you because we're a hater or we don't want to see you happy. We don't want to see a person that we love go down the same road that we went through. We don't want you to be emotionally hurt. We don't want you, uh, you know, we're trying to tell you. So get out of your mind that, oh, they're old, they're bitter. Why don't they have a man and all of this stuff? You know, that's the first thing you girls want to say. And, you know, I didn't listen to my mama, but I wish I would have. I'm pretty sure if all of us could do it over again, we would have listened to a whole lot of stuff our parents told us. And and believe me, when shit start going wrong, baby, everything your parents or that friend or that person that was warning you about them, when you see all that stuff coming to light, you'll be like, damn, such and such. They shows called this. They called it just how it was. So get that out of your minds. You know.
You're right, Miss April. This fool. I mean, Mama used to call him Sticky Fingers. He worked at a local seafood place, and of course, he didn't have a vehicle. I did, but I didn't care at the time. So I went to pick him up after work, and Mama would always ride with me. It wasn't too far, but she would always ride with me. So one night we went there to pick him up, and he asked me to pop the trunk. So, okay, all right. So he kept going in and out. And Mama said, what in the F is this N doing? And
Yeah,
she said,
making you an accessory to something.
Miss April, the back of the car started to dip. And she said, what the F are you doing? Miss April, when we got back to the house, there was boxes and boxes of crab legs
Oh
and
my
all
God,
kinds
probably
of
enough for him to sell to the neighborhood. Uh
Mama
huh.
said, oh my God, we're going to go to jail. She said, I don't want you around my daughter anymore. She said, you're nothing but a thief. And she could not stand him from that day on. And do you know, every place he went and left, something left with him. And today, even today, he is working as he doesn't know that I know, but I do, a contractor without a license. He has so many people after him
Yeah.
for
Uh-huh.
doing work without a license, and that's a crime. But he was just in Costa Rica, and I said, how in the hell? did this crook get to Costa Rica? Because I know no woman was foolish enough to fund that. Come to find out, he was in a car accident. So I'm going to assume, even though I'm not stupid, that he used settlement from um, his settlement to go there. And like I said, just ironically, he DM'd me to please call him.
Yeah. Women do not be taking no case for no man. Do not
He
carry their
used
illegal stuff.
to
Uh,
steal from me, and I didn't want to believe it.
you
And
know,
Mama would say,
honey, they will leave you hanging, holding the bag. You know, value your freedom. You know, value your freedom is all I can say. Value your freedom. Value your freedom. You know, uh-uh. No.
and your life, because a lot of these people, my mom always said, and I believe it till this day, if you will steal, you know that you're going to lie. And sometimes you may even go worse than that and take someone's life. You just don't know. And he, let me tell you something about this man. He was my first, of course, and I was a late bloomer, but he was a jealous person. And he would send, after we broke up because I couldn't deal with him anymore, I finally got the strength to just say I can't do it. He slit my tires. He would send anonymous letters. And this is how unhinged this person would be. Instead of just writing a letter, he would stencil the letters. And I would never know at first the origin until I looked at the postmark, and it was right around the corner from his house. And I said, this fool. And I couldn't wait to get away. He was just, something wasn't right upstairs. But the strange part, Miss April, his mother and father were good people. She was church going. His father worked extremely hard. They had a farm on their land. So I would play with the little chicks. They had pigs and goats and everything like that. But he was just, I'll just say, a piece of work. So when you say it's learned, where did he learn that? Because his mother sang at my mother's um, funeral. She wasn't like
Mhm.
that, nor was his father. So that's a good conversation to have. Where did he learn that from? Because I'm telling you, it definitely
Well,
wasn't
sometimes
mother and
it's just the person. They don't want to work. They don't want to do anything. They want to use people. You know, they don't want to work. They want to use people. And girls, let me tell you something. If a boy's mama tell you their child ain't no good, you better listen to them too.
oh, Miss April, you are talking wisdom. Second boyfriend. This is the one that I almost married. I met him just after I started college. As a matter of fact, at a Shell gas station in Greenbelt, not too far from University of Maryland College Park. And I thought he was the most handsome young man I had ever seen. I was young at the time, of course, but he was just beautiful, top to bottom. He just came back from Desert Storm, so that was back in 1992ish or so. Very kind. He was from Roanoke, Virginia, Army. Miss April, when I tell you, when I went with him to Roanoke to meet his aunt, I was naive as hell back then. She asked me, And I never understood at that time why she would ask me that. I found out later though. She asked me, "Has he ever hit you?" And I looked at her and I said, "No." She said, "Are you sure, baby?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Well, you just make sure that you be careful and keep this in your memory bank. If a man ever puts his hand on you, he doesn't love you." And I found that to be eerie and odd because it was something I would have never expected. But do you know, months later, it actually came to fruition. And that relationship turned extremely abusive. He was an alcoholic, which I did not know. He kept that from me very well until I started snooping. He too was very jealous. And September 30th will be, I think, 1992. I'm not good with math, but September 30th was when I gave birth in 1992, but it was a stillborn, and it was stillborn as a result of domestic violence from him. I was never able to have children again. So she knew
Oh wow.
something. She knew something. So I'm glad that you said that.
Yeah.
So obviously, whomever he was with prior to me, there was a problem. She didn't go into any detail, but she did ask me that. And at that time, no, we never had those problems. But months later, we did.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I say, you know, we old but not cold. We not jealous. We not no insecure women. We just trying to, tell you something. that, you know, hopefully you'll learn something. Because it is our duty to try to go back. I talk to my nieces, my cousins. I talk to them all. And I try to let them know the real deal because I grew up on thinking a Prince Charming was getting ready to come and take me away. uh, the fairy tales, and it's not that. It's not that. You know, and
No,
I'm
and do you
still.
know my auntie? She and my uncle Smitty, poor thing, he's gone now, but she loved him. She loved him, but he Uncle Smitty was mean. And when he fell ill, he ended up with colon C, and then he had he had to be on dialysis as well. And she tried her best to try to help him. And the more and more she tried to help him, the more and more angry and mean he treated her. They stopped sleeping in the same bedroom years, but they never divorced. They stayed together. He stepped out on her, but she's still stuck in there with him. They raised four children. All four of my cousins went to and graduated from Howard University. So they all did very well. But do you know when Uncle Smitty took his last breath, you would think she'd be able to exhale and finally be free from all of that. Miss April, my auntie almost lost her mind, and Mama, who was still living at the time, said that, sometimes when people are together for a long period of time, even though they may go through hell, once they're gone, it can really mess them up. And I can say my aunt was messed up. She was never the same, and she was actually stronger than my mother, but she lost it, Miss April. She was never the same. Never.
Yeah, and some people lose it, and like I say, some women they have the ride and die mentality. They gonna love these men no matter what. They can't even imagine their life without them. You know, um, yeah. But like I say, you know, when a woman loves, she loves for real, and she loves hard. But once she gets fed up, and some women never get fed up.
And you're right, it takes a lot, but as I've gotten older, I got fed up and I learned how to fight back, and my patience is not the same as it used to be. That's why it's so disheartening when I see some of the women that I went to school with, and I'm no chicken. Um, and yes, I'm aging, but some of them actually look sometimes 10 years older than I, because again, the perception, as you were speaking about, not wanting to look like failures, that they stuck in relationships, I think, for the optics of other people when you go to these reunions and get-togethers. And again, I used to feel bad because I felt less than a woman. There were the relationships that I knew were probably good, but I shied away from because I had a mindset that I'll never be able to give a man a son. So I felt less than a woman for a long time. So I dealt with a lot of psychological issues from that. So again, that was so much time that I wasted. And at 56, and this is what I want young people to understand, I can't get that back. It's
Right.
gone. It's gone. It's
Yeah.
gone. I'll never get that back.
Yeah. And it's a shame when we have spent our younger years on something and somebody that wasn't even worth it. And then when you wake up, you be like, oh my God, damn. But, you know, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
And,
you
and
learn,
like you said,
well,
yeah, you
I
learn,
say you learn, but then again, no, some people don't, because they are hell bent on looking a certain way to other people. Like I said, these reunions are good things, but, and this is what I want your perspective on, they can also be bad things, because you already know, Miss April, there are people that will put up, as my mom would say, a front for other people to make it seem as though they've kept themselves together all these many years. Now, some actually have. I know people that have, they were high school sweethearts, and they grew up and they have remained together, built a successful life, some of them with children, some without. But again, there are some that, again, because of whatever reasons, they want to look a certain way to please other people, even though they might be crying inside, but they'll never show that on the outside.
happen. You know, we'll act like nothing happened. And knowing we hurting, you know. Boy, we some good actresses.
You can
Real
you
good
can say,
actresses.
you can say that again. There was a girl that I went to school with. Matter of fact, she was one of my best friends. She ended up with child prior to graduation, but Miss April, it was kept on the low, because guess who she was? Take a guess.
Uh oh.
It
I
was
don't know. Tell me.
not a famous person, but this happens a lot. A person who is supposed to be a quote unquote good girl,
Oh yeah,
and
the church girls.
yes, she was the preacher's daughter.
Okay. Oh yeah, them the worst ones. Oops, yeah, I said it.
She
I'm
ended
gonna
up
mute my mic. Yeah, I said it. The preacher's kids, the worst ones.
she yeah, she ended up with a, a present in the oven prior to us walking across the stage, but it was kept quiet because he was well known in the community, and that would have looked bad. Which brings me, and this is a perfect segue into these relationships that are taboo, that people don't want to talk about because they're afraid what the neighbors may think or what the good church going folk will think. There have been some parents, and this might be hard for some people to hear, but they forced, and I know this for a fact, their daughters to, I'll just say, um, cease a new life coming into the world because of what the neighbors would think, what the co-workers would think, what the girls at the club would think, what the church would think.
Uh-huh.
Your thoughts
Yeah,
on that? 'Cause that's
yeah,
real.
yeah, yeah. You know, some people will go through hell to try to keep up a front. You know, make it seem like, oh, I got it all together, and I'm going home, and I'm getting knocked upside the head, and he's cheating on me. He's got outside kids, and all of this other kind of stuff. You know, he treat the people out in the streets better than he do the woman at home, his wife.
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
You know, he'll go out and he'll buy everybody in the club drinks, but won't buy his woman a dress, a nice dress. Oh yeah,
And then talk about how she looks. How come you don't
yeah,
fix yourself up anymore? How come you don't look the same as you did when we first met?
hmm
Now, do you think that's
yeah.
mind control or just
I just think what I found out is when most of these men are accusing a woman of cheating or not being faithful, they're doing everything themselves. They try to flip the blame on you. When they try to talk about a woman or lower them, they don't have the self esteem or the confidence that they should have. So they take it out on that woman, you know, who's sitting there loving their dirty draws and would do anything for them, but then
yes?
you sit up and treat them like trash. And let me tell you, when that man is accusing you of doing stuff and you know you're not doing it, they're doing it. They're doing it.
Absolutely. I can remember, and my mom used to get so mad at me. She cussed me out one time. She said when we became of age, she wanted both my brother and myself to have vehicles. She said, because I never, ever, ever want you to have to depend on anyone like I had to. She said sometimes she would wait hours and hours and hours to be picked up from work. And hubby was out someplace else at a bar somewhere. Do you know she bought both of us vehicles, as I mentioned, and we learned how to drive. And when I got with my first boyfriend, he didn't have a vehicle, and of course, like I said, he was my first, so there wasn't
Right.
anything
And you
I
were strong. You was sprung. Couldn't nobody tell you nothing about him.
Nobody could tell
You
me
probably
a
let him
thing.
have the car,
I
drive
did,
it,
and do
and
you know
everything.
he had me waiting 2 hours for my daggone
Yeah.
car? And I'm like,
Hmm.
wait a minute, that's my car, and I couldn't tell my mother that. She, ooh, she wouldn't have liked that. But I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And it didn't happen one time. It happened several times. And then one time, Miss April, he said he had to go to a co-worker's house. So I said, well, go ahead. So he was driving, and I'm sitting in the passenger seat. And I took a nap, and he hadn't gotten back yet. So I saw the direction that he went. So I went to this apartment and was knocking on doors. And finally, I hit door A. I look up, his big ass nose sitting up in there, and there was two girls in there, one with some lingerie on. I said, I know effing well you're not driving my car up here. You either leave now, or you're going to walk back home. But see, this is something that my mom tried to warn me, but I didn't listen. I had to see for myself, and I was heated. And I'm like, you know what? That's it. We can't do this anymore. So I dealt with his butt for about 3 years. And like I said, when I finally got up the strength and learned how to love me, I said, no more. I'm done with you. He, like I said, slit my tires, would send all these stupid anonymous letters. But the thing had what he did, which really messed me up. And again, no young person should have to go through anything like that. He he had a Ford Fairmont at the time, old blue Ford Fairmont. I'll never forget that. This fool poured gas in it, and the thing blew up. He got
Oh
burned.
my God.
Yeah, he got burned. It wasn't too bad, but I went to the hospital to see him. Miss April, I'm not an evil person, but he was like, "Can you just give me one more chance?" I'm like, you know what? I'm glad you're okay, but I can't stand you. And his mother looked at me like, I cannot believe you just said that to my son. And I'm saying to myself, you don't know everything your son has done. But I
She
said,
knew. She knew.
like I said, she was a church lady, but I left,
Yeah, she
and
knew. She knew.
I never looked back. I never looked back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She knew what her
And this is
son
a
was.
young, but again, what perplexes me is, again, how did he get into swindler? My mother used to say a swindler type mentality. Because again, like I said, she was deeply in the church. You hear me? When I went over there for Sunday dinner, after dinner was over, I had to go. There was no sleeping over homes. There was no public displays of affection allowed over there. His father worked. His brother, well, the brothers wasn't too lawful, but she ran
Yeah,
a
you have
tight.
to figure out why they that might have been why she stayed in church so much too. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah, she was strict. That woman, ooh, she was strict. But
and then
everyone
again, some
knew
of
her.
them, they yeah, some of them be so much into church and the Lord that they lose themselves, they lose focus. They don't want to deal with anything. Um, you know, the Lord gonna fix it, and you know, some of them had that mentality. You know, so Ain't that
That
sad?
makes sense. It is sad. It is really sad. But she, like I said, she ran a tight ship. But for some reason, um, he 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 was different a different type of individual. His sister, with whom I was really close to, she passed away in a very bad car accident. So that was very painful. Again,
Yeah,
I was young at the time, but he just, like I said, he hasn't changed. He has not
yeah,
changed. He is still getting in trouble. And like I said, I'm 56. He should be at least 58, 59 by now. And you're still doing the same thing. Now, don't get me wrong. People like him. He's a likable person, but he's also a liar. And that has never changed. All these many years. Can you imagine what my life would have been like had I went through with that first engagement? Mama said,
yeah.
"You will not
Thank
marry
God
him."
you were able to wake up.
Yeah,
Yeah, any man that's over 40 something years old and still talking about they the man, they the shit, you don't need them. Oh my God. You know, the old days have played out. You know, if they still on that mentality, let them go, ladies. Yeah,
you
yeah.
got
It,
people on this app, Miss April, that have to continue to prop themselves up on a pedestal. And I've always learned and have been taught and believe and just have the wisdom to know that if you're such a great person, if you're the best at doing certain things, you don't need to say that. It will show without you
right.
opening up your mouth. But if you have to constantly say, I'm the best at this, I did this first, everyone else is coming after me, you have a problem. You're
Uh,
insecure. You don't like
yeah,
yourself. And
yeah,
I feel sorry for those who act like that with families because God only knows what's going on behind those closed doors in those families. To me,
yeah.
and I'm not a psychologist, but those are, like Art said earlier, those are narcissistic traits.
Mm-hmm. They are. Yeah, yeah. And like I said, uh, to still be living in the 80s and 90s and you haven't grown up or come to speed, girl, honey, we old but cold. Stay away from them type of people too. Everybody should grow up at some point in their life.
That's true,
Some
Miss
point.
April. But what I've learned as I've gotten older and watched society evolve and the wheel being reinvented, we are in and we have been for a while, but it's more prevalent now, in my opinion, that we're in a microwave society where everybody wants what they want right now. And Mama said a long time ago, because we used to have long conversations, and I miss her so much. She said, "You know what? Y'all are too damn spoiled. You don't understand what is. You don't appreciate the smallest things in life." She said, "I used to have to walk to work, what she did in the snow and back home." She said, we didn't have cars. She said, now you all in high school, freshmen with cars." And she was telling the truth. Well, of course, I wasn't listening to it then, but as I look back and reflect about it, and I would poo poo, she was absolutely right. There are too many entitled people, entitled children that and social engineering, in my opinion, to ruin their lives and make horrible decisions that hurt them and others as well.
Yeah, and then another thing too, we are not holding people accountable. Um, you know, we're not holding them accountable, and that's sad. We don't hold anybody accountable. We don't apologize. We don't, you know, say I'm sorry. Um, you know, I did the best with what I knew. You know, I was a weak person. Uh, there's no communication anymore. You know,
But where do you think that came from? Where did that paradigm shift, Miss April, of not knowing or perhaps maybe not even wanting to communicate? In other words, I'm right, you're wrong, and the floor is not open to discussion. What I
right?
say goes. We see that
Yeah,
in the church. We see that in the church. Okay, Miss April fell off, but she's absolutely right. The communication is off. I've had conversations with people, unfortunately, where I couldn't get a word in edgewise. The conversation would evolve into a shouting match. And I'm not going to, I had to train myself not to do that anymore because you can't argue by yourself and you can't debate someone that believes that everything that they say is right. Number one, you could bust a blood vessel. And number two, you're enabling. If you really think about it, in my opinion, you're enabling that type of behavior, and it's negative. And sometimes, and this is just my belief, the more and more negativity you release or invite into your space, the more dangerous it can be for you. So I'm gonna pick up. Okay, no worries. But Art of Mine says microwave nailed it. Absolutely, absolutely. Art. People want what they want right now. They don't want to wait. They just want it. And then sometimes if they can't get it right away from you, they'll seek it from someplace else. So it's very dangerous. It's extremely dangerous. We were talking about the microwave society, April, while you were gone, and
okay.
you were talking
Yeah,
about people not wanting to
stimulus
communicate.
starting to act up. You know, it'll start kicking you out after a while. The,
Absolutely, I know. So, where did
yeah,
that come from, Miss April? People not wanting to communicate. Is it because they don't know how, or they just don't want to?
they don't know how, they wasn't taught it. Like I said, we some good actors and actresses. You know, um, nobody never talked about anything. You know, nobody. Everybody got up in the morning and act like nothing happened. You know, and so I think a lot of that has to do with learned behavior that you have seen. That's where that comes from, in my opinion.
So, is it
Some people,
possible?
some people, Lisi, some people think some stuff because they grew up with it or that happened. A lot of people think that's the way life should be. You know, they don't know no other way.
So, if you have that thought process, and there's nothing wrong with that, They don't look at others that may be considered or deemed as role models and say to themselves, wait a minute, it has to be a better way. This, in other words, do you think that people who may feel like this is the only way, does it ever come to their mind that, wait a minute, it has to be something better, or it has to be something different than this? This can't be it. I mean, isn't there a aha moment somewhere?
Yeah, but like I said, a lot of that it's taught behavior. That's exactly what it is. It's taught, it's learned, you know. And then I'm gonna tell you something, Lisa. We end up growing up and find ourselves being just how our parents was or certain people was. You know.
That's true. That
Yeah.
is absolutely true. And sometimes we have to break those chains, with chains. But unfortunately, some people, they may be afraid to, or may not know how to, because they're, as you said, they're used to it or they're conditioned. But somewhere that that has to be broken, because it's systemic now, and it's it's taking root into younger people, where it's to the point where some younger people, they don't even want to entertain elders. When I was coming up, we were encouraged to sit and listen to our elders. Now we get cussed out, called all kinds of names. See, I'm not 60 yet, but you let one of those little whippersnappers come out their mouth the wrong way. I might be forced to have to go back into the olden days and say something out of the way, but they have no respect. Miss April, some of the things that I've heard some of these young people say, some of them, now not all,
No.
but some of them don't even open up the door. They don't say good morning or good evening. I was taught when you enter a room, you
You
speak.
have to speak.
Come,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
will come right
You have
in.
to speak. Yeah.
Just unreal.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And check this out. The kids, they were not allowed to be in the same room as the adults. You know, they was not allowed to do that. They weren't allowed to be in the same room as adults.
Nope.
You
Nope.
know,
And you're right. You are absolutely right. You are bringing back memories. I remember one time my mom had started to trim the Christmas tree. She had to go to the store, and my auntie was there. And she said, "Look, gal," that's what she used to call me. She said, "Don't you touch any of those ornaments while I'm gone." I was hard headed, Miss April. So soon as that door went bam, I said, I'm going to go play with this purple ornament because it was her favorite. Next thing I knew, plack, plack. I'm like, ow. That was my auntie slapping me on my hand. I said, you hit me. She said, what did your mother tell you? I said, she's not here. I had a smart mouth. She said, well, I'm
yeah,
here, and you better put that back. So when mama came back home, I said, Mama, Aunt Matsy hit me. She said, she hit you? I said, yeah. She said, where she hit you?
yeah,
I said, right here on my hand. She said, hold
yeah,
the other one out. I held the other one out. She hit me on that one. She said, didn't I tell you not to touch those ornaments? I'm like,
yeah, yeah. We didn't have no rights. You
no.
know, you, you know, we didn't have no rights, no rights at all. You know, I can understand, like, for some people when they would say, like, you know, it's their way or no way or the highway, and they stood on it. I guess in a way, They probably knew what they was doing because they were standing on their business, you know. Uh, and we didn't want to get in trouble, you know. Even though we didn't have a voice, we still had to listen. Um, and no talking back, you know. No rights at all.
Mm-mm, my butt saw so many switches when I was a little girl because we had those bushes out front, and that's what she went
Oh,
to.
wasn't that nice when you had to go? Hey, when you had to go pick your own switch out. Wow, my God,
Yep.
isn't that awful?
But you can't do that now. You try to
Oh, girl,
discipline
no,
a child
no,
now, you better not.
yeah,
You go to jail.
yeah, and I say that's what's wrong with a lot of the homes now. Uh, Once they took God out, and then once they made it where kids could call DCFS, because that's what they call it here. I know they call it CPS in some places. And when they took away the parental rights, I tell my son to this day, if you would have ever called them folks on me, you could have taken your clothes because you couldn't have came back to my house.
Wow. And a lot of people do that. Art just said, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir, was mandatory. I'm
Yeah,
63 now. Yes, or I do that now. And a lot of people say, you don't have to do that, but it's innate. I cannot help myself. I would feel uncomfortable by not addressing someone as ma'am or sir or with some form of respect. And I think,
yeah,
as Miss April just said, a lot of that is missing. And again, I'll just ask like this: who failed us, Miss April? Is it the parents? Is it society? Is it
I
government?
think society. I think society, um, the government, when they got in our business, whoever came up with this agenda, and because each generation it was supposed to get better, not get worse, you know, and so because like I say, I could have never did some of the stuff that these kids are doing now. Um, I'd rather write 100 times. I can remember when I cursed in school and my mom put me on punishment. I wrote 500 times I would not curse, and I put it on the wall at the house because I did not want one of them butt whippings. There's no fear. There is no fear now. So
Absolutely
I
not.
said,
You're absolutely right. There's no fear.
yeah,
None.
yeah.
Well, absolutely.
And
Well, you know what? Let me switch that up. It might be fear, but it might be the fear of the parents of their own children. Now, what does that say?
well, hell, you would be scared too. Uh, a lot of these kids, when they was calling them hyper and needed their butts pedaled, they put them on medicine. You know,
Yes,
they put a
and
lot of them on Ritalin,
mhm.
and we're seeing a product of that. You know, when all they needed was their butts whipped. You know, that's all they needed was their little butts whooped, honey. Yeah,
Or punishment or something that they like taken
yeah,
away from them,
yeah, yeah,
or they couldn't go to um, like a after school activity or something other like that where they would be really affected. But nowadays, these kids, and again, not all of them.
You
A lot
know,
of
even though we did some stuff, we were still terrified of our parents. We didn't want nobody in the family know we had got caught smoking, uh, or we cursed. We didn't want none of our friends' parents to know. We always wanted to seem like we were good kids. These kids, they don't care now. It's a whole different mentality.
and you're right. And some of these young mothers, unfortunately, they don't care. They have their own life issues. I remember a couple of years ago, I had this great in unit. I was renting it, but what got on my nerves so bad were the neighborhood kids because it was an in unit. They always had to congregate out there and make all kinds of noise. And when I get off work, I get tired and I just want to relax. And I was doing a lot more then than what I'm doing now, but I would wanted to relax and I would stay on the main level and just stretch out and relax. I didn't feel like going upstairs, didn't feel like going downstairs. I just wanted to relax, and then they would be bouncing the damn balls and throwing the balls up against the side of the house. So
Uh-huh.
one of them, I went to his parents' home. Well, come to find out, this little boy, he was Hispanic. Don't know what the situation was, but he was being raised by his 72-year-old grandfather. So I said, "Sir,
Yeah, and you know what? A lot of those kids, that crack era really destroyed like two generations because you had the grandparents that was raising the kids and they were out of energy and then they were older. So that's why
yes,
when they said, "Oh, we're gonna put them on Ritalin or they got ADHD and stuff." Yeah, yeah.
you're right." So I spoke to the gentleman who was very kind and apologetic. Do you know that little boy? About a day or two later, I don't know if he was on punishment or not. I was coming outside of the door, going down the steps. He rode his bike by. He called me Karen. I said, no, he didn't.
Oh,
He
oh,
still didn't learn. So that was in him. And I said to myself, you know what?
yeah.
Unless you are caught early in school by a teacher who really cares, because his grandfather obviously couldn't handle him. His parents probably couldn't handle him. That's why his grandfather was taking care of him. He was going to be a
Yeah, no
menace.
telling what happened. And
Absolutely.
then another thing,
He called
hey
me
Leese,
King.
check this out. Check this out. Grandparents let the grandkids get away with stuff they wouldn't let us get away with. Go figure on that.
I think that that's a good assessment, and I think it's because they want to be liked. They want their grandkids to like them. Art says, "I still curse at times, but not habitually. I'm just getting away from using the N word more so." Understandably, I've used it. I actually
Oh man,
used
I used it too. I still say it, nigga. I shouldn't have said that. Excuse me, y'all. But
I
we
did
grew up in
say
a
because I
time.
was angry at a certain group of people for good reason, and I get out of my body sometimes, but
Yeah,
it happens. Do I like it?
yeah,
No, but this
yeah,
is another thing. My mom also said, "N is not your color; it's the principle, or something other like that." She
yeah.
would say. Again, I don't like it, but have I ever said it? Absolutely. And I'm not even going
Yeah,
to
we
sit
all said it,
there
girl. We
and
was singing with it
pretend.
in the rap songs. You got the vapors. Please, you work for UPS. We had that NIGGER, please. That was like a saying back in the day. You know, uh, we know better. You're supposed to do better. You know, hey, we didn't always have it all together. We still don't have it all together.
No, we
But
don't.
together we can all have it together.
It's going to take a
Yeah,
long time, Miss April.
girl,
And
it's gonna take a
unfortunately,
long time.
and I don't want to be pessimistic, but just me, I don't see it happening in my lifetime because
Oh,
my
neither do I.
time
I
here.
used to, but I don't, because I'm out here in the community working
Hmm.
and stuff. No, no, uh. Yeah,
These
yeah.
children, these young adults, they are in a a world of their own, and as I mentioned earlier, some of these parents are so young. Some of them are single parents. Sometimes they're single mothers. Sometimes they're single fathers. Some of them are actually afraid of the children. Some of these children, Miss April, I mean, they look like giants. I'm looking up. I'm only 5 foot even, so I'm short. So I'm looking at some of these kids like, good Lord.
Yeah, yeah. They need some Afrite juice, you know. But like I say, when you find out, the programming, the drugs, the different prenatal vitamins, it's a lot, that was given to women of color and Caucasian women. Uh, you know, a lot of it ain't they fault. I'm realizing a lot of this stuff was built by design. Yeah. And so, and you can see it all come in play as soon as um, people make strives to get better and make the next generation better or start coming up. Boom, boom, boom. Here's some new epidemic. Here's something else that comes up, you know, to keep us continuously divided. Like I say,
And
once they
oppressed.
put, yeah, yeah. Well, Lise,
I
I'm
saw
gonna have to
one.
leave. I got to go over to my neighbors. I sit with a lady uh,
Oh,
for a
okay.
couple of hours at night.
Oh, that's
Uh,
so sweet of
man,
you.
this has been such a great show, very refreshing. We're going to be doing this like every other, I guess, Friday because
Yeah,
I'm taking new membership class. And anything you guys want us to talk about, and I want to make this clear, I am not perfect by any means, uh, and I'm still learning too. But it's some things that I just love telling people. And I can tell anybody my life story. If anything you want to know about me, just ask me. I'm not ashamed of my past or anything I went through to make me the woman that I am today.
absolutely. Absolutely. It's about transparency. And you can't help but to respect someone who is transparent because, as we know, Miss April, and I'll let you go, what we've seen today, anything that's been done in the dark,
Oh yeah.
somebody is going to find it.
Yeah, and I tell people every day, I'm fighting demons over here every day, y'all. I gotta get up
Absolutely.
and pray every day, you know.
Yes.
But don't come for me when I didn't send for you, because this ain't what you want. You know, all of that's gonna go out of the window, and then you gonna see the other darling. And I'm gonna tell you, um, like I tell people, don't make me go there, because I'm honest, I'm straightforward. Another life lesson: honesty and being yourself and loving yourself. Those are some important characteristics you have to have. Don't be in competition with anybody. You don't know
Yes.
what other people are going through.
Absolutely.
Appearances, beauty, all that stuff is only skin deep. It's your heart.
Hmm.
It's your heart. I want to say that as my closing. And thank you, Leese, for allowing me to be on your panel. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I'll see you on your panel the next time.
Okay. All right. We got to get V Sparrow and any other ladies. Uh,
Yes.
you know, and we just feel, I'm not trying to tell anybody, nobody talked to us, as we were saying. It was their way, no way or the highway. We didn't have a voice.
Nope.
And it was a lot of things that our parents didn't tell us. A lot of things they didn't prepare us. Was it their fault? No. They did the best with what they knew how to do. A lot of us older people, we come from parents that had just come from the South. Hey, they were just happy that to be free, to have good jobs. You
Yes,
know, they
absolutely.
didn't know the grand scheme of the world to tell us and prepare us. Yeah. But I love you all. Peace, love, and happiness.
You as well as April. Everyone, that was April Showers, and we hope that you enjoyed and getting tired now. This edition of Old But Not Cold with Lease and April, or April and Lease. The next time we get together, it will be on April's platform where we talk about different topics from a seasoned point of view. So, again, if there are any questions or topics you would like for us to discuss with no filter, please let us know. And in closing, please be safe, be well, and be up there. Until next time, bye bye for now.